Hey, sorry for the interruption, but we wanted to let you know that this week's episode is brought to you by Spotify for Podcasters. Really cool app. Josiah and I use it for every single show that we bring to you every week. You can edit podcasts right from your phone or computer, so you can start creating as soon as you log into the platform. You can easily distribute your podcasts to Spotify and everywhere else the podcasts are heard, just like we do every single week. You can also create video podcasts on Spotify, which is really cool. And of course, you can earn money like I'm doing right now by including ads and even podcast subscriptions. And best of all, it's totally free. There's no catch. We really love it. We use it every single week. So we encourage you to go download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started. All right, let's get back to the show.
Welcome to this week's episode of the Print on Demand Cast. Each week, join Travis and Josiah as they provide insight into the print on demand industry and equip you with the tools, advice, and strategy you need to achieve success and hopefully have a few laughs along the way. Now, on to this week's show.
Hey everybody, welcome back once again to another episode of the Print on Demand Cast. As always, I'm Josiah, and joining me from his office in Broomfield, which is 30 minutes away from me, and this is a lot of information the listener doesn't care about, Travis Ross. How you doing? It's good to see you, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I don't have the cool lights like you do. I love those, the blue and the red. You know, it's very branded. You know, I mean, with our podcast logo, nice work. I was actually looking at those on Amazon last night thinking, but as you can see from my backdrop, wah, 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 it probably wouldn't look very cool. I'm going to have to figure something out in this office, maybe put like a sconce or a candle or something to look cool. Sure. But it's not really doing much for me right now. It's something you don't really think about a lot of those things until you start implementing video on the podcast, which we're going to start doing, YouTube channel, that kind of stuff. And so now it's like, how do we make it aesthetically pleasing to the viewer now? Because now we have to keep in mind that we're going to be on video, have to keep in mind, I have to look presentable and can't just be disheveled because it's only audio. So now what are we going to do? But once I move locations and hopefully have a home studio, I can start kind of even adding some cool wall decor because I don't want to go through the hassle of hanging stuff on here if I'm not gonna be here for much longer. So, it's good to see you, and I'm excited about. You're breaking my heart. You're breaking my heart though. You're talking about leaving.
That's talking about leaving the great state of Colorado, and it's gonna be an adventure. So which we'll cross that bridge. Good thing is for the listener, nothing will change. We can still provide you quality audio, video, and sound bumper experiences, regardless of where we're located in this great state or great country, rather. So, man, I'm excited about this interview because we're talking to someone that doesn't live in this country. We're actually went all the way. Listen to the listener. We went across the pond and sourced a guest for this podcast because that's how much we care. Distance means nothing. We went all the way to England and got Michael Essek. Now, Travis, tell everyone a little bit about Michael Essek. I mean, don't give away the farm before we get into the interview portion, but you know him from a conference in Seattle. So tell people a little bit about him and what they can expect to learn from Michael in this interview.
Yeah, this guy's been around the block a few times when it comes to print on demand. He has michaelessek.com, and you can find all this information in the show notes. But his blog is one of the best in the print on demand space. So I would totally encourage you to go check it out. He's got so many incredible blog posts. He has a lot of other things going on too, and beyond that, he's actually. He's building brands. He's actually doing the stuff we're talking about. So really excited to talk to him, really excited to pick his brain, kind of, introduce him to some of our audience that may not know him yet, because he's really providing valuable information to the print on demand world. So really excited to get into the interview.
Yeah, 100%. And just so you know, the listener, you probably have seen this already on your time slide or whatever. This is a longer episode, so there's no point of interest. Usually we don't do point of interest for guests anyway, but especially this instance, because this interview goes a little long, so you might have to break it up on your commutes or just settle in, get comfy, and get out a notepad and get ready to take some notes as we go to our interview. The main event of this episode, the interview with Michael Essek.
On a cold, dreary night in September of 2020, Travis Ross and Josiah Cifuentes created the Print on Demand cast. This is the main event.
Travis, I am super excited for this week's main event. We get to talk with Michael Essek, who is a branding and design guru. I'm very excited that he has taken time across the pond to come on the show and kind of take us to school on these two topics. So, Michael, welcome to the show. Welcome to the Print on Demand cast. Thank you so much for taking time to be here.
Thank you, guys. Pleasure to be here. I know it's early doors over there for you guys, so thanks for arranging to have me on at this ungodly hour.
What time is it where you're at? Yeah,
it's just, what is it? It's about 10 to 5 here. So I'd be packing up and heading home about this time. Okay. But yeah.
So you're ending your day, we're starting ours. That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Michael, I met you a few years ago in Seattle at a Merch by Amazon conference that Chris Green put on, and it was a really fun conference. A lot of great speakers, and learned a lot. But since then, you've really kind of just taken off as far as like publishing content and really helping people in the print on demand community. First of all, I want to say thank you for that and for contributing so much. I mean, you can go to michaelessek.com, and there is so much stuff about print on demand. It's really amazing, all of the things that you've offered the print on demand community. But so backing up, like, I just want to hear your pod story, your print on demand story. Like, what brought you into print on demand? And then maybe even take it a step further. What made you decide to also create all this content for people and not just kind of stay in your hole and just, with your head down and just, do design after design after design?
Yeah, great questions. How did it all start? I think I was... if we go way back, so this is about 7 or 8 years ago, I was working as a graphic designer, web designer, and I had a website that I'd started, kind of like a hyper-local blog that I'd been running for a few years. Started it myself, grew it to a decent following on social media. I think it had about 20,000 Twitter followers and stuff. And it was just a local blog about the area I live nearby, and some things that were happening around there. And I sold it because I wanted to I was bored of it. I wanted to sell it. So I sold the blog, the business, if you like, although it never really made any money. But it made me some money in AdSense and that kind of thing. So when I sold it, I suddenly realized that couple of $100 a month was no longer there. And I wasn't making any money anymore. So I kind of thought, okay, it'd be nice to just kind of top up my income a little bit with something. So let me see what I can do. And I think I started doing things like looking on 99 Designs and Upwork and trying to do a bit of like freelance graphic design jobs. I did some logos, did quite a few little illustration logos for people on Reddit. And then I stumbled across T-shirts, and in particular, this was kind of the high point of sites like T-Fury and Shirt Punch and Ripped, and they were called, or I would call them shirt-a-day sites. So they would have a design for sale for 24 hours, and they'd kind of take pre-orders, and then they'd screen print them and send them out, and it was a great business model because they would be like constantly infringing on IP, but they'd be doing original designs, really cool designs from independent artists, and they'd be great. They'd be really quality stuff. But it was all like, it was often infringing,
And then it was gone in 24 hours, and so they never got caught.
That's the business model. It was genius. Like, if you were Marvel or whatever, you could never find a link to the design because it was gone because they took it down, a month ago or whatever. So this was a high point of that stuff. So I got into that space. I was following all the artists, and I was seeing all these figures like, we've paid out X $1,000 to artists this month. And I was like, wow, okay. And then I could see that there was like not only was there T-Fury and Shirt Punch and a few other big ones, there was like new ones popping up all the time. And I was thinking, well, there's all these sites. They all need a new design every single day. And there's multiple of them, and surely if I produce a few decent designs, I've got a good chance of getting a slot, because you had to submit. It wasn't like you had to submit a design and they had to pick them. So long story short, I started creating some designs for T-shirts. I had a pretty good idea, I thought, of what might be funny. Did some designs around some of my favorite films, kind of cult films and stuff like that weren't really very well serviced. And one of them got picked for Shirt Punch, like within a month. So I was like, wow, great, okay. And that sold and maybe did a couple of $100 in royalties in like a 24-hour period. And that was kind of the hook, because I was like, okay, we've proven this can work. Let's go. And then around that time, Redbubble was really starting to take off. So a lot of these artists were posting their designs on Redbubble as well. And TeePublic was just about starting. So I discovered that was really the entrance into true print on demand via Redbubble. And same story, really. I put my designs on there. Within a month, had my first sale, got the email. I remember turning over, checking my phone, seeing the email, seeing you've made three quid or whatever it was, and thought, we've proved that, this can work. And from then it was like a wide open, opportunity. It was just, okay, the model works, let's go and do it. But it was always from that kind of artistic, designery background of creating quality work, because it needed to be quality in order to get on those sites in the first place. And you were competing with some really, really talented illustrators and designers. So it never really dawned on me. It only dawned on me like a few years later when Merch by Amazon launched that, oh yeah, you could do any kind of T-shirt. Like, it didn't have to be something that was really smart and funny and looked great. It could be a Happy Birthday Dad T-shirt or a Happy Father's Day T-shirt. That never clicked in my head until like a few years later when merch came out. For maybe 2-3 years, I was kind of doing bits and pieces. I was mostly focused on stuff that I was interested in, whether that was movies or particular communities, like I don't know, might be something like Bitcoin or something, which was kind of starting to tickle at the time. I did some designs around things like that. And things would take off. Some of them would take off. I'd have a Twitter account, Instagram account. Things would rumble on. And it was just kind of a very slow, steady progress. Would check my income every day, add it in my spreadsheet and see, this month we made $50. Right. Next month we made $70. Okay. And it was just I've still got the same spreadsheet, and you can see it's like 2 years of just blah, 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 blah. And then I think I had a really good year in 2014 or something. There was a few things that happened that year that really had a few trends, and I was on top of them. And then 2015 Merch by Amazon came out, and I was kind of stunned that Amazon had done this. I think Amazon was Amazon didn't know what they had on their hands as well. They, created this thing as like a way for app designers to sell T-shirts to their users and stuff, and they didn't clock that they were actually about to take over the print on demand world. So anyway, I hit the ground running with that. Spent the first few nights uploading, hundreds of my designs on there. And it basically doubled my income overnight, and then it quickly zoomed up from there. So that was the real turning point, I think. So I would say I was in the right place at the right time. I had lots of designs already. I knew the landscape, and then merch was just like a rocket booster that enabled me to make a lot of money from those designs and really scale it very quickly. So yeah, since then. And you asked, why did I start putting stuff out there and, writing blogs and emails and stuff? I think the honest answer to that is that merch was in those early days, it was very touch and go. And there was not a lot of, it was the Wild West. And there weren't a lot of rules. And I didn't at the time know anyone who worked for Amazon or Merch by Amazon. I didn't have contacts with anyone there. So I was like, this thing could crash and burn just as fast as it shot up. So I was always kind of wary, and I'd thought, I'd often played around with the idea of like starting a blog and trying to, tell people how to make money from Redbubble and things like that, but I'd never actually done it. So I think because I was kind of nervous about the success that was happening, I thought, well, this would be a good time to put that stuff down, and then maybe I'd have something there. I always liked the idea of like selling an ebook or something. I just thought that's a great business to be in, just, you know, selling an ebook to people that they download.
Sure.
Like, that sounds good. But I'd never really done it before. So that gave me the excuse to try it out, really. And yeah, I thought it would be good to have a list of people who I could email and say, hey, you know, this has happened, or here's a new thing that's happened, and just have that direct contact between people. And I felt like, you know, I'd been in the space long enough that I had a lot of stuff to share. I'd, you know, always been taking notes and, you know, almost writing blog posts, but never actually publishing them anywhere. So started writing a weekly email newsletter, started posting blogs, getting involved in Facebook groups, and that's kind of what led us to meet through that route. So yeah, it's kind of been a whirlwind. And like you mentioned, the brand stuff. So that kind of around the same time as merch was taking off. Again, similar kind of thought that, you know, merch is great, but you don't have any contact with the customer. You're not building anything real long term. Yeah. We were doing okay on Etsy, but we weren't really investing much time and effort on there. So we spent more time, you know, looking at Etsy, doing more Etsy stuff, and building a Shopify store, which did very well around 2017, 18. Doing work with Instagram influencers and driving traffic and stuff. So got kind of quite deep, quite fast into that world. And then since then, yeah, it's been lots of different channels, lots of different things. And I think we're beginning, when I say we, I mean like my company and my staff and everything, we're beginning to understand what we're really good at and what we're not so good at, and the platforms that really work for us and the platforms that, you know, not really worth our time anymore. So yeah, we're focusing on brands. We're focusing on doing what works and figuring the way forward.
Nice, man. So you mentioned Etsy, you mentioned Shopify. So I think it's safe to say you're not just going, you know, 100% royalty based print on demand. You're also, you know, seller of record for some of your stores. So how many channels are you actually selling on? How many revenue streams? And I mean, you did mention that some of them aren't as perhaps lucrative and you're not going to spend as much time on those. But, you know, maybe some of your, how many major revenue streams would you say?
Yeah, the biggest ones, right now? Yeah, the biggest ones would still be Merch by Amazon, Redbubble, TeePublic. They're probably like the big three. And then Etsy just kind of depends what month we're in and what's happening, but that would be in the mix as well. In our main ones. And then there's a string of other print-on-demand sites, but none of which would usually make more than a few $100s a month. So we have, you know, we still make money from those, but we don't actively kind of do much about those. But yeah, we have several, not several, but we have a few Etsy stores that do well for us. And we are just launching a new Shopify store for a new brand, which we've kind of laid dormant for a few years, but we're kind of getting back into the swing of things with that, and with Instagram as well. So our focus is really on building the Instagram account and building the brand kind of side of that right now. But we are just beginning to push that out there as well. So the other channel we have is offline licensing. So we license designs to various brick and mortar stores. So Hot Topics, Spencer's, places like that. We have a few deals in place. And with manufacturers, like we have a magnet manufacturer we work with. We have a wall calendar that we do every year with a particular manufacturer, and they handle everything. And then we just basically receive a royalty check every quarter for that. So it's not as lucrative as the online stuff, but it's nice to receive that check once a quarter. And it's cool to have those channels which are not online, which means they're not open to copycats like we're all used to dealing with every day. Right, if someone's stocking something in Hot Topic, it's unlikely that a copycat can come and undercut you on that, like they can on Amazon. So yeah, it's cool. That's probably the other main channel that we have. yeah, I think that probably sums it up in terms of the big ones.
Awesome. I love that idea of diversifying. We talk about that a lot. Just diversifying your revenue streams and making sure that you have more than one. And we talk about, eggs in baskets and not making sure that all the eggs are in one basket. So that's good to hear that there's lots of diversification. How, with the team that you have that you're working with, how big is that team? Are you utilizing VAs? Are you, having people that work in-house for you? How big is that team, and what's kind of the delegation of roles that you have within your company?
Yeah, we're not a big team by any stretch. It's me, my sister and her husband, and my mum, and I have a friend who does basically some like VA type work for me on a part-time basis. And then I have a couple of designers who I've worked with and retained really for several years. So yeah, it's not a big team, and a lot of what we make, we're making money from designs that were created 5 years ago. It's really as
Sure.
wild as that. So what we're doing in terms of delegation and who does what, I'm obviously kind of overseeing the general direction of things. And then my sister usually manages the Etsy and stuff between her and her husband. They do a lot of the back and forth on Etsy and chasing orders down and whatever. And then we just have a lot of copy paste type jobs, VA type jobs that you have to do.
Sure. And
then I would work with the designers and usually give them art direction and say, hey, we want to do a series of designs like this. Here's some sketches and back and forth. So yeah, it's not a big team. Excuse me. It's quite small, and we're, like I say, we're still making, probably at least 50% of our income from designs that were created over at least 2 or 3 years ago. So, so what we're trying to do is, trying to create new stuff, but not to repeat stuff that we've already done, if that makes sense. Like we want to focus on those brands and designs that have really worked. And, we might notice that a design suddenly takes off, or that a couple of designs have been selling really well over the past year. So let's maybe create a brand around that, or let's put some effort into that, do more similar designs like that. So we're not running at the same kind of breakneck pace that we were, in 2017 when I was churning out designs like a madman and hiring designers left and right and trying to get every idea down. It's a lot more kind of focused these days around designs that really click, and especially around audiences that we know we can connect with. Like we have Instagram accounts. We know that if we put this kind of design in front of them, they usually respond pretty well to that kind of thing, and we can make sales that way. So that's more the focus these days.
Are you doing any type of customization on Etsy at all?
No.
Or have you? Okay. Is there a strategic reason for that? Just too much time, or have you just not got into it yet?
Yeah, it's just the hassle of it all. I mean, don't get me wrong, we get requests for customization on Etsy, as I guess a lot of people do. But it's the fact that it's not an easy thing to do. Like, of course, if Etsy released some kind of plugin or something that allowed, automatic customization with real-time previews and stuff, then we'd say, go ahead. It's not an opposite. We're not opposed to customization or anything. But it's just like, can you change this color to red, and can you write, Chloe on the bottom of it or whatever? And I'm just like, it would take me 10 minutes, but I don't want to do it. It's not my business model. That's not what I'm in the game for, So a lot of our designs don't really work that well for that as well. Like a lot of them are, funny, witty, one joke designs, if you know what I mean. So there's not that many that really work for customization.
So if our listeners haven't figured out by now, you're not from the USA. And so we just thought we'd take this opportunity to ask you, because I have no insight into this, are there specific challenges doing business in UK with a bunch of US companies? And I know a lot of these companies are obviously worldwide, but I know some of them have, specific hurdles where you have to have a US bank account or things like that. I'm just wondering if you can speak to that and maybe give some advice to somebody who's not in the US that wants to start out, and maybe what they can do to fast track that.
Yeah, to be honest, we'd not faced many hurdles because the platforms we sell on, whether it be Amazon or Etsy or Redbubble or Shopify, they're pretty,
global.
They're global. They well, even if they're not global, they're pretty comfortable for a UK user to use. They plug in quite nicely. Like I imagine that's different if you're in India or something like that. But in the UK, they tend to be pretty cool with UK bank accounts and stuff. So we haven't hit many hurdles there. I think maybe in the early days we had issues with Shopify because they wouldn't let you use like Shopify's internal payment system, so you had to plug in Stripe or whatever. But I think that's all been overcome these days. So from the UK perspective, it's actually pretty easy. I think we have, we can use US fulfillment companies for the most part because we're selling to US customers for the most part, and it's pretty straightforward. There's not really anything we've had to overcome that I would be like, oh, watch out for this. It's more like, I think probably the biggest hurdle is things like returns on Etsy. Like, how are you going to handle that if people want to send you something back and you're like, oh yeah, send it to Manchester in the UK, and they're like, what? I paid $3 for shipping and you want me to pay $15. So there's things like that you might want to think about. We overcame that because we have my wife's has family in Ohio, so we could send stuff back to them. So there's things you can do to kind of solve problems like that, or you can just have people return stuff back to wherever it came from, Printful or whoever your fulfillment company is, and work out something there. So that's probably the biggest potential difficulty. There's other weird things like on Instagram or whatever. This is really stupid, but once I took a picture and it was of my Five Guys order, and I was in London at the time, and I just kind of tweeted posted it on Instagram, and someone commented and was like, I could see that it was London. It was like, Oxford Street or whatever in London, and they were like, "You're in London? What? I thought you were American," and all this stuff. I was just like an anonymous account on Instagram stuff. So I was like, "Oh, not that it really matters, but it's just kind of takes away a bit of the mystique." Or you're trying to be this cool brand in America, but you're actually in the UK. It's less cool. I don't know. It's not that less cool.
So let's talk about branding a little bit. How many brands do you currently own and operate on the various channels that you're on?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question because immediately have to ask, what do we call a brand? Is it a brand if it has an Instagram account? Is it a brand if it's a Etsy store?
Sure.
I think we have more Etsy stores than we have Instagram accounts, and we have a few trademarks, and I would probably say those are the real brands. When you've got a trademark for something, that makes it a brand that you want to protect because you want to sell under that name, and then you're going to go out there and protect the name. So brands I think we have 3 trademarks right now. So those would be the main ones, and I think one of them would be what I would call a more generic brand. So it's a pretty broad brand. It's our biggest Instagram account, and it's just a kind of funny T-shirt brand. It's not really specific to any particular niche or whatever. I guess you could say the demographic is like millennial humor or whatever, or internet culture and that kind of thing. But it's not, it's not like dogs, cats, or anything super specific like that. Not that dogs and cats is specific these days because you have to go, oh, this is a Labrapoodle or whatever it might be. That, and then we have a couple of more recent trademarks around the brand that we're kind of restarting right now, and then another one which was an old brand which we've kind of let die on the vine. But a few trademarks that we have, but then more Etsy stores than we have trademarks, and then a few, Red Bull accounts and things like that, which I wouldn't really think of as brands. They're just more accounts, if that makes sense. So it's really those few ones that we say, these are our brands. We have followers, we have email lists, we have websites, we're legit, we have domains, whatever, these are the real deal kind of things.
And you don't do that for every single Etsy account. What's kind of what's the trigger point for your like, hey, this Etsy account is selling X, or we're seeing this particular product take off? Like, what triggers you to say, hey, we need to perhaps take this a little more seriously, start collecting emails, maybe even look into a trademark because we're seeing whatever. What is that thing that you have to see to make you want to do that?
Yeah. So a good example is this one that we're about to start up. So we created, what was it? We had a few designs which were kind of around a particular, not subject, but I guess you could call it like a particular joke or a particular, not a meme, that's too specific, but kind of a broad angle without kind of getting too specific.
Why don't you just tell us what it is?
Tell exactly what it is.
We'll all keep it a secret, okay? We promise.
Yeah. It's just us here. It's just the three of us. No one else.
No one else is listening. So yeah, it was a particular, let's call it a subject, particular topic that we did. And we did a brainstorming session kind of at the start of, I can't remember if it was 2018 or 2019. And we were like, you know what? We've stopped doing the brand stuff. We put a lot of energy into merch and a lot of energy into Redbubble and stuff. It's time to go back and really let's get legit. Let's get some brands going. What brands do we have, or what do we want them to be? And we had a few like seedling ideas based on a few designs, like one of these designs which just organically took off, and people really liked it. And whenever we posted it on Instagram, we get lots of shares and comments and stuff. And we did a few similar designs, and those got similar good reactions. So we decided that would be one project that we'd work on. And we basically said we'll do like 10 different projects, and we'll put them all out there, and we'll see which one really flies. And then that will be the thing that we turn into a brand. So we never actually did the 10 different projects, but we did one, which is this one, which is our new brand kind of thing. And we did, I think, a series of about 10 designs, put them on Instagram, really good feedback. And then we put them on like Redbubble and Etsy, and they just got organic sales, which was weird because these were not designs that I would say have much, organic traction, really. They're not things that people would be searching for. They're like really quite, it's weird how people would, I was confused how people found them and bought them. So that was like a big green light. That was like, we're onto something here because people like it. We have barely promoted it apart from on our Instagram account. We've not done any ads. We've not done any sponsored posts. We've not done anything. And people are just like buying it and sharing it and stuff. So we have something there. And yeah, that was kind of the trigger, really. And then I posted them on my Threadless store. And within a month or two, Threadless reached out and were like, oh, we think we can license this to Hot Topic and a few other places.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, right, it's trademark time. And it's, it's time to get this thing locked down because we're probably onto something here. So yeah, that's, I guess that's a good, I guess the takeaway from that is if you've got something that starts taking off organically, like it's just out there and you can't really explain what it is, and it has something about it that makes it protectable. Like, I should probably say these designs we did, these were not like, a line of text with a simple graphic. These were designs that we spent, maybe a month or so putting together, working with a designer. There's quite a lot of information on the design. It's quite, takes a bit of time to kind of read it, and get all there's like multi-level jokes and stuff. They're kind of things that work really well on posters as well. So we push them as prints as well. So yeah, that's because it was like that kind of thing. It was like, okay, we put some effort in, we're seeing the results. Let's go and build that out into more of a real true brand, if you like. So that's what we're working on now. And if you've got something like that starts taking off, you just need to pay attention to it, which is why it helps to be able to quickly, see, what your best sellers, what's happening. Is there a trend that's taking off? Is there something you can hop on, or more long term? Is this something that's still going to be appealing in 2 or 3 years? This particular joke, this particular subject it has legs. It's not based on whatever the latest meme is or anything like that. It's like a kind of evergreen concept, if you like. So. So yeah, I don't know how helpful that was in terms of takeaways, but
well, what I took away was, if Hot Topic wants to carry your stuff, you've got a brand. I think that's basically what
probably trademark it.
Yeah, you have the inklings of something. Perhaps, yeah.
That's the litmus test. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know how like, I don't really know how Hot Topic works. It could be that Hot Topic tries a load of stuff, orders a load of shirts, stocks them, and then the next month they're like, nah, they didn't really sell. So sure. I took it as a good indication that we have something that interests people, because Hot Topic were coming to us not knowing if we'd sold any or anything like that. They were just like, oh, that's funny. That will fly with our customers. And that's kind of what we want to be doing. And that's always what's worked. That's worked when I've done Instagram outreach to influencers and stuff. Is like, hey, do you like any of our designs? They're like, do we like any of your designs? Absolutely. They're perfect for our customers. We like this one. Can we do a promo on this one? Can we modify this one? That's what you want to hear when you're doing outreach and stuff. So
yeah, that's cool.
That's awesome. So, Michael, I'm sure that you've encountered copycats along the way, people either trying to rip off a design or the brand itself. How have you in the past? I know trademarking obviously helps mitigate, the ability to copycat stuff, but what's been your experience, and how do you, shut that down in a way that it doesn't take away attention from your brand your design that you have out there?
It's an ongoing problem, and I don't really see a solution in sight yet. But
sure.
We're in the same boat as everyone else. There's reporting facilities, DMCA takedowns, and that's usually the best you can do right now. I think I would say in terms of where this whole thing starts, if you create something in the first place that is copyrightable, by which I mean it's a design of enough quality and enough effort's gone into it for it to qualify for copyright protection. That's a good starting point, because at least you can say, hey, this is clearly my design. It's not a line of text and someone's also written a line of text on a t-shirt. It's something more than that. So that's helpful. Little tips like we have registered email addresses at domain names like legal@mybrand.com. We found things like that tend to help with takedowns being addressed a little bit quicker. But even then, I've probably filed more takedown reports in the past month than I have in the past 2 years, because we had a design really go viral about a month ago. And I've just been kind of enjoying reporting, all the Etsy stuff. It's just nice getting that email that we have taken down what you reported.
Yeah.
So I've been doing that on my lunch break. And
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Justice is served.
Justice is served.
Yeah. It's best served cold. Yeah.
Exactly. I've been filing a lot, and a lot of them don't come back. Like, we've filed stuff with T-Chip and a lot of those kind of shady T-shirt sites that are not not the most legit of places, and they just don't respond, or if they have responded, I've not seen it yet. I don't know what they're waiting for. But yeah, there's places where DMCA fails. Like, I don't know if you've ever tried to get something taken down from Alibaba, but you may as well you may as well not. It's not worth your time. Or eBay, I think, has struggled with eBay as well. But yeah, I think it helps to focus on, is this really worth my time? As in, like, I'll take down an Etsy copycat because I'm selling on Etsy and they're eating, they're drinking my milk.
Sure.
Same on Amazon, same on other stuff. If a random Shopify store sells my stuff, I'm less inclined to be concerned about that.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so those things help. But yeah, apart from that, it's like we're all in the same boat. And I think the solution is, and we're beginning to see this, like platforms and places are cracking down on infringement, on IP infringement. Yeah. And they're getting, I think, wiser to the fact that if we don't stop this happening at a massive industrial scale, we have reputation problems, we have issues with, not just because like individual artists are not things that concern people, because we're not going to bring legal cases probably against Redbubble. But if Pokemon does, or if Marvel does, or whatever, that causes, especially a company like Redbubble or Amazon, what they don't want is legal headaches. They don't want lawsuits from brands with deep pockets. So I think, we're seeing that more and more. The policies are tightening. I mean, sometimes I think I would prefer a world where it was more of a curated, situation. But I just think the platforms are built for scale and for, anyone come and bring your designs and we'll sell them. But even sites like TeePublic has begun to say, you know what, we're not posting anyone's designs on the main TeePublic store. Like, you can still sell them a bit like you might on a Teespring or something. You can drive traffic to your store and we'll do the back end. But we're not necessarily going to put them on our market. Right. We're not necessarily going to allow people to search for them and find them through TeePublic. So I think that kind of thing is probably going to be more prevalent as well. And I mean, I still don't understand why image recognition has not been used more on some of these platforms and sites. Like, that would seem to be a no-brainer. If YouTube can do, recognition on 30 seconds of a song, and go, hey, that's Taylor Swift, then surely you can look at a PNG file and go, hey, that PNG file is like 80% similar to that PNG file, with the same colors and everything, and just have someone run their eyes over it and like, hey, actually, we got a conflict here. Did you create this or did you create this? And for those of us who have been in the space for any length of time, this is an easy thing. Like, I could go on Redbubble or TeePublic or Merch by Amazon, look at the best sellers right now and see which ones are infringement, and just pick them out. Like, why don't Redbubble and TeePublic employ someone whose job it is to just
look at the best sellers.
What's selling right now? Oh, look, there's a rest in peace, someone who's just died. There's, a Marvel joke. There's whatever it is. And just take them down. Like, I think that would be, the great answer, or part of the answer anyway. Sure. And people would get bored. Like, the copycats would get bored if every time they upload something, it gets removed. And every time they try it again, it gets removed. And don't get me wrong, the cat and mouse game can go on for a long time, but if you're, constantly whacking people on the head, they're going to get the message sooner or later. Yeah. Actually, I bet I could go and scam somewhere else,
Right.
There's a better scam going.
Yeah. So I do want to talk about design and coming up with ideas. But before we do that, I just want to ask one more question about branding. And for branding, like what are some business end games, for branding? Like, if you build a brand, what are some things? Can you take that brand and sell it separate from the rest of your business? Is that one of your end games? Where do you see that side of your business going? And any advice that you would give to somebody that's also, hoping to build a brand?
That's a good question. And to be honest, I'm not thinking about the kind of end game at the moment. Sure. I guess that makes sense because we're kind of starting things up. But with previous brands and stuff, there is a tendency to think, I'm just going to start this up and see where it goes and whatever. And you're right. Obviously, the good thing about creating a brand, creating brand assets, creating a customer base is you can package that up and sell it if you wanted to, 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, whatever. I think that the other option, which I'm kind of more inclined to right now, is because we have a bit of experience now in art licensing and offline licensing and that kind of thing, is that you build up a brand and the value is in the brand, literally in the same way that, Nike is more than just sweaters and sneakers. It's actually the brand name.
That's Nike to our U.S. listeners.
Yes, sorry, Nike. The value could be in, a bit like if you think about like an influencer, like what's the value of an influencer? What's the value of an internet personality?
Sure.
Well, if they don't sell any product and they're just like they do sponsored ads or something, the value is all in them and the attention they have, the audience they have. And in the same way, that's kind of what we're thinking. I think we're thinking, we're going to build a decent Instagram following. We're going to build a decent audience email list. And we're going to create a product and a following around that product. And then from that, we can license that. We can, I imagine in the same way that kind of like Hot Topic came and said, we think we can license this. We would either go and approach, different licensing partners, or they might approach us. One thing I'm thinking about is like a book, through a traditional kind of publisher deal that we would put together kind of a humorous book collection of designs or something like that. In the same way that you see maybe like, these funny Twitter accounts, like something like the We Rate Dogs account that like, people send in pictures of the dog and he rates them and does a silly thing. And then, a year later, he's got a book deal and a merch line and stuff like that.
Yeah.
A similar kind of deal like that, I think, is where we're heading with our particular brand. So it's less, clothing company or anything like that. We're really not thinking along those lines at the moment. We're thinking, content-based brand, if you like. We're thinking about people who are going to really like the jokes and enjoy it, and we're going to do something in that whole space. And then hopefully expand that, like I say, into maybe books and other licensing opportunities like that, and partnerships. We're already thinking about, particular partners we can work with who would be a good fit for. And I think, if you, probably good if you start thinking about that now at the start of whatever your brand thing is. Who can we work with? Who would be a good partner? Who's a good promoter? Who can we, bring value to, and it would be a good fit, rather than just I'm going to start a T-shirt store and hope for the best.
Yeah, sure.
I think that's a really hard line. And I see I get a lot of submissions for when I do reviews on YouTube and stuff, and people send me stuff all the time. Take a look at my store. Take a look at my Shopify store. And it's just another, standard Shopify template with a logo T-shirt and an about page that says something like, we're for people who want to stand out and live a happy life, or, the adventurers and the thing. And it's just like, this is just, there's literally 1,000 of these started every single day around the world. Like, for goodness sake, do something. You've got to bring something unique. And that's not going to be another logo shirt. It's not going to be Happy Father's Day on a shirt and, a collection of generic T-shirt designs. That is not a brand. That's just I don't know what that is. It's a wishful hobby or something.
So, Michael, let's talk a little bit about designs. I know that you are a genius when it comes to design ideas. So for those listening, and for us, Travis and I always say that we're the first listener. We get to hear all of these tips and tricks first before our listener base does. But for those listening, can you give us 2 to 3 quick ways to come up with a design that is unique and sellable? What are some tips that you might have to come up with one? Yeah,
I think it does start with the audience and knowing who you're designing for. I think that's been one thing that I've been good at, is not just, trying to create a design or an idea, but actually knowing an audience, whether that's like, being part of a community for a while and you get to know their jokes and their slang and whatever it might be before you ever create something for them. So most of my designs that are bestsellers have been stuff that's like, it's a topic or a subject I'm genuinely interested in, and I'm aligned with my potential customers because we're on the same wavelength. We find this thing funny. We have this, in joke that we both share. And because of that, when I create a design, it's like, it clicks, it's not something that I have to force. It's like, oh yeah, that's funny. Of course they'll find that funny because, I know because I find it funny, that kind of deal. Right. So yeah, I'd say it starts there, if you, and a lot of people say to me, well, I'm not interested in it. I don't have hobbies and interests, So where do I begin? How should I go and research what to do? And I would say, just go and get interested in something first. Like, I don't know. Well, you must have something. Or maybe when you were 15, there was something you were interested in. Like, I like watching Netflix and going on the internet. Well, come on, do better. Read some books or there must be something like anything you could drill down on someone and be like, oh yeah, well, I like those kind of movies and I always found this one really funny, or whatever it might be. So yeah, I would always tell people to kind of go back and start there. And then when it comes to ideas, like a few practical things, I think you have to really kind of focus your mind on the problem of coming up with ideas. Like, that's kind of how I got very good at ideas, is that I set myself a target of doing like 40 new designs a week or something. And these would be unique, original ideas. And by no means would they all be great. And they certainly didn't all sell or become bestsellers. But because I forced myself to like do that, I became acquainted with, okay, yeah, that would make a good design, that wouldn't, and those kind of things. And because you do that, and I would usually do this on like a Monday morning and kind of just, block out the morning on Monday to just kind of do ideas and just do research and kind of look at the ideas I'd saved from the previous week that I'd noted down, and then go and do research on those ideas and see if they already existed or if there was already a bit of, similarity with something out there, or how I could do a twist on something, and following rabbit holes and things like that. So I think that's a good place to start. And along with that comes like just saving every idea you have, like whether you're walking down the street and you see something funny, or you think a funny thought or whatever, you will not remember it. I can guarantee you, you will remember that you had a funny idea. You won't remember what it is, and you won't even remember what it was about. You need to make a note of it when you get it, which happens to me all the time when I'm falling asleep or waking up. Like last night, last night I went to bed quite early, woke up about 1:30, couldn't get back to sleep, and was having lots of ideas. So I just had to pull out my phone and just write them down, because I knew I'd forget them if I didn't do that. So yeah, things like that. And then I guess I could give a couple of like practical examples of idea generation techniques. One that works for me really well is something I call plug-in phrases. So this is where you have, basically a list of phrases which you can use as jumping off points for ideas. These are familiar for T-shirts. They might be things like, this is my something shirt, or don't blame me, I something, or I'm trying to think of some other examples, but that kind of thing, sorry, I'm late, I XYZ, whatever it might be. So, little jumping off phrases like that. And then the first thing is you need a list of those. I've got a list of like 300 that I've saved over several years. But if you can start building up that list, and anytime you see something like that might work, I sometimes call those phrases like boilerplate designs, where you could take or you might call them scale designs, where you could take a phrase and switch it out. I'd rather be fishing. I'd rather be hiking. I'd rather be playing volleyball, whatever it might be. Those kind of phrases, just make a list of them. And then, when you have a trend or you have a topic that you want to do something around, you can just pull up your list and go down the list. And often for me, this isn't a case of, here's, sea shanties. Here's a trend around sea shanties. Let me run down my list. I'd rather be singing a sea shanty. It's not necessarily things like that, but it's like where you can twist them and put kind of a joke on them, or that kind of an ironic, sarcastic twist on stuff. They're really good jumping off points, and that some of my best-selling designs have come from that kind of approach of just running down a list of jumping off points like that, and then just coming up with a text-based design, which you can do some nice graphics for and tie it all together in a nice design. But it's not super complicated. It's a pretty simple concept, really. So that's a good method. And to be honest, I think I've got like 13 methods that I've kind of put down on paper and taught people, and I could talk about it for hours, but quick wins are things like that, like plug-in phrases, things like graphic styles, which are popular, 80s style or kind of a 90s style, anything like that. A subject comes along, and if you can find a way to combine that with a style like a vintage summer beach style T-shirt, that can lead to like funny, ironic, jokes, and the juxtaposition between whatever it is, dinosaurs and a beach, and then you come up with a funny idea based on that. There's loads of techniques, and I think it comes down to, but those techniques mean nothing if you don't know something about your audience and you don't have a good understanding of what kind of jokes they're going to find funny or whatever. So that's where it all begins. There's a lot of techniques and tips and things you can do to really turn yourself into a machine, which is kind of how I think about it now. It's like, you could point me at any subject or any trend, and I could just, using the tools I have and the experience I have, I could just spit out ideas for days, and then it becomes a job of actually filtering and finding the best ones and the strongest ones and working on those.
Yeah, it occurs to me that idea generation / design creation is a lot like songwriting. Both Josiah and I are musicians, and we've written a lot of songs, and really there's a lot of similarities. Making sure you write down your ideas, because your inspiration can happen at any point. In the middle of the night as you're walking down the street, having that ability to record those those snippets or those ideas or whatever they are for a song lyric or maybe a melody or whatever. And then the idea of creating tools to help your creative process is very, it's very applicable to both of these, genres. So it's really cool. I love that you've kind of flexed that creative muscle, and you've put, you've forced yourself to really grow in that way. And now it's very natural. It's like breathing, and so,
it's like design is a good comparison, because if you use Photoshop or anything, or you use these tools which are designed to help you create quicker, right? That's the whole job. Is you can have a design you need to create, and you can open up Photoshop and you can turn it into a nice design, because you have your fonts ready, you have your color swatches, you have your graphic bits, whatever it might be, and you can put them together quickly. And it's the same thing with ideas. It's just it's not a tangible thing. It's the idea. How do you put together an idea? Well, you have the resources, you have the jumping off points, you have the kind of graphic styles that you might use, or you have some iconic images or things that you might play on or parody or something like that. So it's putting together all these things. And I think it's really because of Merch by Amazon, because Merch by Amazon had this ridiculous policy of having tiers in the thousands and hundreds of thousands, which was never a concept, I think, before then. And that was hold on, you want me to produce thousands of designs? So that made me think, okay, well, is that possible? Let's find out. How many ideas can we have? We need more ideas than we have designs, because, so it became a game of mass production of ideas, which has led me to all these different techniques and methods and things.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's I can set up my guitar and I can have my computer out and, my microphone and all of that stuff. If I don't have the ideas that I've, prepared in advance, I'm just staring at a blank screen or whatever. So it's very, very similar. You set yourself up for success when you do open up that Photoshop document. You've already got a list of ideas, or you can very quickly come up with them with some of those tools. So those are some great tips, man. That's awesome. I want to ask one more question about design, and then we're going to have you look into the crystal ball and kind of give us a futuristic look at the print-on-demand world. But I wanted to just touch on shirt color or palette color. I know, when I started Merch by Amazon, you could do 5. I think now you can do 12 or 15 colors or something crazy like that. What's your advice to someone that's ooh, I can put this on a purple shirt. I can put this on a pink shirt. Ooh. Because I think, we all kind of, we know where this is going. You can really confuse your customers when you give them so many options. So can you speak to that a little bit, Michael?
Mm-hmm. Excuse me. I've always come from the position of, because I kind of started, in fact, even before merch, I was starting little Shopify stores, or not Shopify back then. I think I did Store Envy or something like that, or I had a WooCommerce store as well for a while. So I've always been, making those decisions as a seller as well. And it's always been, okay, I've got this design. I realize that I can hook it up with a print-on-demand company and they can sell it on almost any color. But what do I want to offer the customer? And it is that process of, well, I created the design. I know what it looks good on. I'm the artist. I'm the creator. They need to, it's not it's not a game of who's in charge here, but it's I know what it looks good on. I designed the thing. I know it looks good on a black background because that's how I designed it to look. So, sometimes people on Etsy are like, oh, could you do this on pink? And you're like, have you seen the design? Do you understand the concept of colors and how they look on things? Like,
there's orange.
Orange. Orange. Yeah,
exactly. So I guess you could say, in that sense, I don't believe the customer is always right. I think it's a case of, you as a designer and as a creative, you make decisions about what looks good, and they say yes or no to that. And I've always been of the mind that. If it's going to be on a black or a dark background, it's going to be offered on a black and a navy shirt, and maybe at a push you might offer it on one more dark color, like a brown or a dark heather or something like that, if it works. But I think we know, that analysis paralysis is a thing, and if you give the customer too many options, then you confuse them or you turn them off or whatever. And I just think it's easier. It's a lot easier and more straightforward to just be like, here's the design. It's on black. Off you go. And, a lot of our designs are like that. They're like, this design works on red. It's on red for a reason. We know the reason. We know why it's on red. It's because it's a particular type of design. It says a certain thing and it sends a certain message. So, of course, people buy it on red. And it's like some of our best sellers have been on white, even though most people would be like, well, the best-selling T-shirt color is black. Well, yeah, it is. For all T-shirt designs in the world, but for this design, it doesn't make sense on black. It only works on white. So, and you can you could flip the colors inverted. No, you don't understand. It's made to work on white. The message is completely different if it's on a different color. So I'm getting a bit overly animated on that point, but I just think,
we love it.
You just take the decision and go with it. And of course, I understand that you can make a design that works on any color shirt. That's fine.
Sure.
But a design that works on any color shirt, I don't think it's not going to be a T-shirt I really want to wear. Most of my designs rely on the color of the shirt in order to, look nice and look cool. They don't look great on other colors, and they will only work on a few colors. So, that's always been my kind of position on that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think sometimes people think that the color options will sell the shirt as opposed to focusing on the fact that the design is what should sell the shirt. And so they want to plaster it on every color available. A lot of our clients do that. Like, I want to make it available on every color you have. And you have to kind of walk it back. Like, well, okay, listen, it's not going to look good on this and this and this and this. So you should probably just do what looks best, because you'll sell more if you offer 3 colors as opposed to offering 12, and then no one knows what to choose because it's 12 color options, and it becomes kind of a mess.
It's like the Ian Malcolm thing in Jurassic Park. They didn't stop to think if they should, because they could, they did, whatever the quote is. It escapes me at the moment, but it's that kind of thing. Like, just because you can does not mean that you should do something. And because, I think screen printing T-shirts, screen printing the process is like one of the greatest gifts to T-shirt designers in the world, because it made T-shirt designers, because they could only screen print stuff, you have to limit your color choices, you have to limit your color palette, and it led to this approach, which is really great designs, because you only have 3 colors. You have to be great at the design to make it really look nice, and that led to I would call it the overall style that we're kind of used to on T-shirts, which is a screen printed style. And I think, yes, on prints on demand, you can print any number of colors in any combination. You can print a photo if you want or whatever. But funnily enough, the T-shirt medium works really great if you keep it to 3 colors and it looks like a screen printed design. Yeah. You can print it on demand. That's fine, of course. But, it still looks better if it's that kind of approach.
Yeah, it's the all things are permissible, but not all things are beneficial type of approach. Awesome. Well, hey, as we kind of wind down and bring things to a close here, we wanted to ask you your opinion on the future of print on demand. It's something that Travis and I talk a lot about on the show, whether it's the niches that are coming up that's going to kind of influence, the future of POD, what items are coming down the pipeline that we think are going to be huge. But overall, as an industry, what do you think the future of print on demand holds? And what do you think in particular the future of print on demand holds for fulfillment companies that aren't necessarily like the Printfuls or the Teesprings and stuff like that? So if you could look into your crystal ball and kind of do a Michael Stradamus type moment here and let us know what you see coming in the future of print on demand.
Yeah, great question. I think especially for like print-on-demand fulfillment. So I talk to a lot of print-on-demand fulfillment companies. My blog ranks pretty highly for a lot of those terms and stuff. So I get people messaging me all the time and asking for, will I review the thing? Will I put it on my blog? Will I, can we work together and stuff like that? So I think the print-on-demand fulfillment space, obviously that's blown up in recent years, and Printful and Printify and stuff have been doing great and growing like, I don't know, I can't remember what Printful grew last year, but incredible growth. So I think there's those two kind of big monsters in the space, or the big dogs, and I think there's a lot of room for improvement in print-on-demand fulfillment. And I've been saying this since like 2016 or 2017 when I was, first started using People. And don't get me wrong, things have been improving, but there's so much room for improvement. Like the quality of prints has been getting a lot better over the years. Like it's a lot more consistent quality now, and the machines get better every year and stuff like that. But I think there's still a long way to go in terms of like, the key for print-on-demand fulfillment for me, and I still remember where I was when I kind of clocked this. I was like, we went out for lunch, me and my wife, and it was around the time where I just kind of stumbled across, like, I think it was Print Aura at the time. So this was before Printful were even, if they were a thing, then they weren't a thing that I knew about. But there was a company called Print Aura who were doing print-on-demand fulfillment, and it suddenly dawned on me that I could take all the designs I had on Redbubble and start my own store, like just start my own store. They could do the fulfillment, and I'd be able to do it. I could do it. I could do all the front end stuff. They'd do the back end stuff. And it was just like, wow, this was a whole new world, because I'd previously come very close to buying a bulk order of T-shirts and trying to sell them from my bedroom and stuff like that, and always held off. And this realization that they can handle the stuff that I can't, and I can focus purely on the other side was massive. And what's strange is that not many print-on-demand fulfillment companies have gone, focused on that. Like, for example, things like custom packaging or custom inserts in your orders, things that would make it a brand that I'd be proud of if I was shipping it myself. Like we ship, books, my books and stuff, paperback copies of my book. We do things like putting a little postcard in there with a little note or something like that. Or stickers or something like that. I know that Printful does that, but Printify doesn't. And other companies don't have a really, uniform approach to that. So even simple things like that, I think there's room for improvement on those kind of spaces. And I think where companies are able to offer more, kind of, products and product ranges that are not the same old. Like if you can do a product that is, takes a bit more work perhaps up front to get the organization going, but then, it's something much better for the customer, or more in line with what the customer wants. I don't really have an example off the top of my head, but I just think competing for T-shirt orders. And don't get me wrong, there'll always be people wanting print-on-demand T-shirts. But if you can differentiate yourself and be like, we offer this that you can't get anywhere else, whether that's like, not that I do any of this, but things like jewelry or little acrylic prints or things like that. Those are the things, like if you could do like customized, almost like a customized cut, wall decor kind of thing or something like that. I don't know. Those kind of ideas, I think, are where, there's opportunity for smaller print-on-demand fulfillment companies to do something that others aren't. But it really comes down to that. Can you offer stuff that other people can't do, or can you help me as a brand owner? Can you take some of that pressure off? Can you do, can I outsource my customer service to you so that you're you're like a white label guy talking to my customer on my behalf, things like that. All those kind of things I think would improve the experience, and there's a lot of opportunity there for those kind of things.
Yeah, awesome. And first of all, thanks so much for coming on and spending your your evening or early evening with us. And I just want to give our listeners, like, where's the best place to find you? Where can they contact you? We'll have all this information, of course, in the show notes. But what do you got going on? I know you've got like different things you've put out there, like the Ideas Workshop, and you have some other products that you've created over the years. I don't know what's available or whatever, but kind of we'll give you the stage and you can share whatever you'd like to share.
Yeah, well, michaelessek.com is my website, and I have a weekly newsletter that's usually a what I call a Tuesday tip, funnily enough, on a Tuesday, and then I usually do like a roundup on a Friday, which is kind of news and updates from print on demand world. That's kind of my, if you want to hear the latest from me, you need to be on the email newsletter. I'm not so hot on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and stuff, but I always make sure I send an email at least a couple of times a week. So definitely go and sign up there. In terms of products, I have a book called The Little Book of T-Shirt Ideas. It has, I think, 16 different methods right now. So it's basically like a mini reference book. You can point it at any topic or subject. You can flick it open and find idea inspiration that will work for any niche, any topic, anything you want to try it out on. It's got over like 100 examples. I'll walk you through step by step. Here's how to apply this. Here's how to come up with unique, funny, witty jokes around this topic of yours. So that's available on my website. And then, like you say, I've been working on this Ideas Workshop, which is kind of a course plus a load of really helpful tools and resources for people who really want to build their idea muscle, I guess you could say, and go really deep on the subject of ideas and geek out on it like I do with, hundreds of plugin phrases and loads of graphic styles and things like that. That's a course that we open a few times a year. So that will be opening again in a few months' time. And I'm working on some big updates to that. So that will be live, I think, sometime in April this year. We'll be opening that up again. And that's kind of the big focuses right now. I'm hoping later this year, weather and COVID permitting, that I'll be able to come out to some events over in the States and stuff and do some things and meet people again. That's it really for now.
Yeah, Print on Demand Cast meetup. Come on, let's do it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be, honestly, people are like, I don't care. I don't care if I know you, I don't know you. I'd sit down for a drink with anyone right now. If I was allowed to.
That's right.
I don't care.
We are starved.
We're
starved for
human interaction and community. Yeah.
I'd pay good money to get on a plane just for the experience of sitting in an airport bar right now. If I could, yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, well, you're not alone there. I'm sure there's lots of people listening, and ourselves included, that are very much in that same boat. But Michael, thank you again, man, for taking time out of your busy schedule to sit down with us. I know that this is going to be very beneficial to those that are listening. And so thank you for taking the time. And hopefully we will have that Print on Demand Cast meetup, hopefully soon.
Absolutely. And you guys organize it, and I'll be there.
All right. We'll hold you to it. And until then, man, have a good one. And thanks for coming on the show.
No problem. Thank you, guys.
Well, there you have it. The interview with Michael Essek. There's so much there. I would suggest even giving this one a second listen, maybe a third listen, because there's going to be a lot of stuff that you need to retain. Even for myself, I was like, I can't wait to listen to this one back, because, I got done recording and Jason was like, how was the interview? And I told him right off the top of my head the stuff that I had retained. And then it was like, there's something else, and I need to go back and listen to it so I can articulate it. So I encourage you guys to do the same. Travis, what's one of the biggest takeaways for you from this particular interview with Michael?
I just, the more we do these interviews and more we talk to these people that are doing print on demand, there's this branding theme that keeps coming out, and for me and you, we kind of started our journey with, taking his ideas, the thing you talk about it with ideas, and just coming up with hundreds of different ideas and just doing design after design after design and throwing them all up there. And I think there's, as we move, the timeline moves in print on demand, I think there's more and more of a move toward people, getting into more branding and learn. And so I really enjoyed hearing some of his thoughts on that, because I think if you want to, prepare for the long game when it comes to print on demand, you really need to think through how you're going to create an actual brand. And, that doesn't mean, your target should be to sell in Hot Topic. That's not necessarily what we're talking about.
Sure.
I'm talking more about your mindset, like how you think about your designs and how you think about how they interact together, and then potentially how you think about marketing them to a larger audience in a cohesive way. I think that's something that I just keep hearing. It seems like it's a thread as we interview all these different people.
Sure. Yeah, 100%. I think one thing for me that I took away too from the interview, in addition to that, was, man, you got to do your homework on designs. I mean, just his process and the number of tools that he has and methods that he has to come up. It's more than just, Googling novelty shirts and seeing what's on T-Fury and coming up with your own design, which I'm guilty of. You're guilty of. We're all guilty of it, right? That's just kind of how we've done it for a while on some designs. But hearing his approach to stuff and the work that goes into the designs that he creates to create something that's unique, that's evergreen, that's going to be sellable, and obviously he's doing something right, because Hot Topic came knocking for some of those designs. So I think there's this tendency to kind of go on autopilot with the designs, and like I said, just find something funny and make your own version of it. But I know for me, this definitely challenged me about, of course, trend research, trend watching. We've talked about that a lot on this podcast. Trend watching and figuring out things that, for me personally, that I am knowledgeable and that I can create shirts about. I'm a huge professional wrestling fan. I know that I could get some of that, some designs around that niche, because I understand like he was talking about, so super, super, super informative.
Yeah, it goes back to some of the stuff we were talking about in episode 9 when we interviewed Ken Reel, and some of the things that he was talking about, just basically saying, the best way to not get in trouble with, copywriting and all of that stuff is just to make original art and put it on shirts. And I think Michael really has taken that and really run with it, and has done really well for himself because of it.
Absolutely. 100%. Well, I hope you guys listening got a lot out of this interview. I know you have, and I know you'll continue to do so as you go back and listen again. We want to thank Michael one more time for coming on the show all the way in England. I know he's a super busy guy, and it was really, I'm always really honored. I don't know about you, Travis, but I'm always really honored when these guys are willing to take time out of their schedule to come onto our show and impart some knowledge to our listeners. It's always really honoring to know that they believe in, one, what we're doing, and two, just empowering people and equipping people in general. So thank you, Michael, for taking the time to come on the show. For sure. It's awesome. So thank you guys so much for listening. In case you didn't know, we have a Facebook group. Go to printondemandcast.com/Facebook. We'll take you to that Facebook group. You have to request. We'll approve you. Come on in, make yourself at home, get to know everyone in the group. If you have questions, it's a great place to sound your questions and just to interact and kind of ask for advice and tips like that. So, Travis, I'm really liking the traction we're getting on this Facebook group, man. I like the community that's starting to be built.
Yeah, it's a small group of people so far, but it is growing every day. More people are added to it, and the whole reason we did this was so we could have community and build community. So yeah, we'd love for you guys to join the Facebook group. Yeah, printondemandcast.com/Facebook, take you right there. I think there's like 3 questions on there to get in. We set it to private today, so you kind of, once you're in, all of our posts are in there, and your friends can't see them. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. Join us and ask a question. Contribute to the conversation, because we all get better. The whole rising tides lift all boats. That's really kind of the theme of this whole podcast.
Yeah, 100%. And so be sure to find us there. You can also go to printondemandcast.com for more information on the show. If you want to reach out to Travis and I, it is info@printondemandcast.com. That's the email address where you can reach us, ask us questions, or again, through the Facebook group is a good way to reach us as well. And we are available on all major podcast platforms. And Travis, we tell people all the time, rate on iTunes and give us a review. Right. And subscribe. Give us that 5-star review. Well, it's happened. We got our first review, which is super, super exciting. I'm going to see if I can pull that up real quick and share with the viewing audience now, which is an interesting thing to say. So here we go. Our first review, Chris Kretz, on the 29th of December, which I know some of these reviews take a while to kind of populate for Apple, just in their vetting process, which is great. But very, very, very kind review, hooked in the first episode, and very complimentary of the content. So Chris, thank you so much for going out of your way to leave a review on this show. It means the world to Travis and I, and it's part of the reason why we started this, was to help people like yourself. So thank you so much. And we encourage you guys listening to do the same thing. Give us a review on iTunes. 5 stars is preferable. If anything, for the dad jokes, the witty banter, and the bumpers, which is what we are. I think that's what we get the compliments the most on, actually, which is really, really funny because all the legwork we do pre-show, pre-production, the notes, and it's like, the conversation was good, but those bumpers, they move me. So it's like,
I don't know what that says about the state of the human race, but I'll take it, man. I'll take it. Sure. I'm having a good time.
We're having fun, and we'll take all the compliments we can get. So thank you guys so much again for listening. For Travis, I'm Josiah, and we'll see you next time right here on the Print on Demand Cast.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Print on Demand Cast. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you've got a question or a suggestion for the show, send Travis and Josiah an email at info@printondemandcast.com. Take a minute to rate and review the show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast. And don't forget to subscribe now so you don't miss next week's episode. See you next week.
This is the longest episode ever.